Good luck to Zohran Mamdani, because he's not going to be able to solve all the issues that he is talking about.
But we're literally in 36 days of a shutdown, and people are extremely, they're hurting right now, and that hurt was what we saw in the election.
Look, there is a fundamental difference between outright socialism, where the government seizes the means of production and tries to artificially control the market, which we've seen many
just responding to his own calling him a jihadist when he's not a jihadist. That's a good example.
But I mean, also, Zohran Mamdani won in New York last night, and by the way, he was running against another Democrat. Okay, that's how much he was disliked.
Zohran Mamdani won. That's how much he was disliked.
So, apparently, Ben Shapiro here and the other panelists, I think her name's Isabel, are terrified and not surprised because the right are terrified of literally everything. The list just grows by the day. But anyways, this time, they're not terrified of corruption, not of corporate greed, not of billionaires hoarding money, but of a guy saying there is no problem too big for the government to solve and no matter too small for it to care about. So, don't we?
Some Republicans, including his vice president, are shrugging off the wins. J.D. Vance saying it would be idiotic to overreact to a couple of elections in blue states, and House Speaker Mike Johnson echoing that sentiment.
There's no surprises. What happened last night was blue states and blue cities voted blue. We all saw that coming. And no one should read too much into last night's election results. Off-year elections are not indicative of what's to come. That's what history teaches us.
All right, we have a great panel here. I want to start with this idea because I was thinking about it as everyone has been talking about where the Democrats are going, looking across these races. So I guess the question, and I'll start with you, Bakari, why can't the Democratic Party be both Mamdani, and who is an outward Democratic socialist, he says it himself, and Spanberger, who is more moderate? Why can't that be the Democratic Party and stop saying, like, we're going to be this or this?
I mean, I think the Democratic Party is that, what you said, and it is a big tent, and that tent does have those somewhat, as you kind of dictated in your question, extremes. But I also want to push back on the framing of that, because that framing is more in line with what J.D. Vance was talking about. That framing is more in line than what Donald Trump was talking about. Somehow people perceive that this was an election that just happened in New York City. And God forbid to all my New Yorkers that life happens outside of there. But the fact is, we kicked Republicans' ass not just in New York, but we beat them in Mississippi, where we actually broke the supermajority. 2 public service commissioners won, not 1, but 2 statewide in Georgia. We beat the last Republican city council person in Orlando, Florida. We actually took back the mayoral race in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So not only did we just win in Virginia and New Jersey and New York, where people want to make this race about, we won up and down the ballot. Now, is this just a snapshot of time? Maybe. I don't want to get out over my skis, but let's not make it seem like we just won in blue places. Right. We won all over the country.
Ben, to you, are Republicans missing something here? Because you are hearing some Republicans who are saying, this is not a big deal. This just happened, as you just heard, in blue states. Everybody just calm down.
Well, I mean, I think that this is the launch of the midterm election cycle, obviously. And as Bakari says, Republicans did not do well last night. And it's also true, obviously, that Democrats were very likely to win Virginia or New Jersey or New York. But obviously, if Republicans don't take into account the fact that this is now a Republican-owned economy and that this is a Republican-run country. I mean, the Republicans do run both houses of Congress and the presidency. And so if there's a backlash, it's going to obviously happen to the Republicans. And that is almost the most likely scenario. I mean, I think that the question is going to be margins. Right now, there aren't that many vulnerable seats, actually, in the House. The number of challengeable seats is extremely limited. So I don't think you're going to get a wave that's 40, 50 seats, because I'm not sure that's possible anymore, given redistricting and given the big sort that's been happening. But for Republicans not to take some alarm at the fact that, obviously, these exit polls, which are showing economy still as the number one concern and inflation still as the number one concern, if they don't take that seriously, obviously there are going to be some serious effects in the middle.
There are 2 points I want to make along the same lines that Ben was making. This probably will be the only time we agree.
Y'all are agreeing on something?
Start off with a bang here. But yes, we have to think about the fact that, take Virginia, for example. Every single county in Virginia swung to the left. Every single county, not just one. And we're talking about 2, 3, 4, sometimes 15, 16 points swung to the left. In Georgia, what you saw around Atlanta, Fulton County, Gwinnett, Cobb, I mean, those folks came out to vote. And so you're starting to see those things. And last but not least, the issues that were at the forefront, and Democrats have to realize this, the issues that were at the forefront, like you said, were the economy, affordability, 1. Number 2, health care. A distant third was immigration. You know what was not in those top 5 or 6 issues? these culture wars,
Yes.
which Donald Trump pulls us down in, and we can never win them.
And
Pettiness,
usually, I
name-calling
think the
pettiness.
Democratic Party takes the bait, and this time around they didn't. So I think the Virginia governor's race is a good example of that. You know, you have Winsome Earl Sears kind of focusing part of her campaigning on the transgender issues. Spanberger didn't focus on that, and she did focus on affordability, and I think it helped her win that gubernatorial race. But I will say this, you know, I'm glad that Ben is pointing out to the fact that, yes, economy is top of mind for most Americans. And what I heard from
Isn't it
House Speaker Mike
always?
Johnson and from Vice President J.D. Vance is a lot of what I heard from Democrats in the lead up to the 2024 presidential election, when immigration was definitely something that Americans were
And
concerned
crime, and
about.
crime.
And crime. And they pretended like, nope, doesn't exist. It's all made up. It's just right-wing fear-mongering. No, you need to listen to your constituents, because your constituents are the ones who are concerned about
Well, in
this.
fairness, I don't think the vice president or the speaker of the House were saying these issues don't matter or they don't exist. That
But he's
certainly isn't
downplaying
what
the
they were
results of this
saying. They're
election.
explaining that it's an off-year election and that Republicans didn't necessarily feel the same impetus to go vote as we likely are going to see in the next presidential election and certainly in the midterms coming up next year. So I think that's a bit of a mischaracterization.
Well, Trump is underwater when it comes to pretty much everything, including immigration, by the way. But Larry Kudlow today was shocked at how underwater he is when it comes to the economy. 61% of Americans
Neck deep.
disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy. Don't underestimate how much of an impact that's going to have on the midterm elections.
And even the voters that, you know, the fraction of black male voters that people were looking at in the 2024 election, you know, all those voters came back home. And the biggest flop you saw last night, or flip-flop, however the word is said, was Hispanic voters. So all the gains, it looks like every gain that Republicans made in 2024 through immigration policy reform that people don't like what they're seeing on TV or whatever it may be, they lost all of that last night. Now again, Democrats, one of the things we like to do is run victory laps that last like 365 days. I mean, you have to figure this out, because this isn't the only headline today. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we're literally in 36 days of a shutdown. And people are extremely, they're hurting right now. And that hurt was what we saw in the election last night.
I mean, I think the biggest thing in all of this, and I think you saw it, Trump winning over Biden, I think that you're seeing it now, is that people don't like the status quo. And after they change the status quo, they don't like the new status quo. Because the reality is that all these problems that are now deeply embedded in very real ways in our economy, for example, things like the national debt, things like the fact that we've had, you know, enormous pressing by the Federal Reserve for a while here, and in both directions. First, it was too slow to react in one direction, then it was too slow to react in the other direction. You know, all of this is leading to just a systemic unease that everyone has with everything. And whoever gets elected next, I mean, good luck to Zohran Mamdani, because he's not going to be able to solve all the issues that he is talking about, certainly not with the policies that he is currently proposing. And then he's going to be the one on the chopping block.
I do want to ask you,
Okay, Mister, according to my calculations, Ben over here. Okay, I guess that's kind of a fair point, because implementing big plans is hard. But the question is, why not try? Because the alternatives are doing nothing or maintaining the status quo of promises that keep getting punted. If you're going to mock someone for ambitious goals, at least explain why they're unrealistic rather than just shrug them off. You know, and that's all these Republicans do. That's all they do, is they turn you against things that help you and are working, yet they don't come up with a better solution or anything at all. They're basically saying nothing is better than something. No. Something is always better than nothing. Duh. Nice try, though, these little shits.
because young people voted in very large numbers, particularly in the mayoral race here in New York, and they were part of the change that happened here with Zohran Mamdani sort of sweeping into office with over 50% of the vote. But I want to talk about what we've been hearing from the president and some others in the Republican Party who keep calling him not a socialist, democratic socialist, which he has said he is, but a communist. And there are big differences between the two. That scare tactic did not work when it comes to Mamdani. And socialism, some people will look at it and say, look, we have some socialist programs here in the United States, things like Medicaid and Medicare, things like, the SNAP program, things like public school, where we all pay taxes, but even if you don't have kids, you kids get to go
compulsory programs.
to school for free. What sort of
Or the
is
fire
the
department,
idea
or
that
your
Republicans
little
have that
GoFundMes
this is
even.
a communist and that they can keep pushing this idea when people
Yeah,
seem to
certainly.
be rejecting it?
Look, there is a fundamental difference between outright socialism, where the government seizes the means of production and tries to artificially control the market, which we've seen many, many times play out throughout human history, and social welfare programs. Having social welfare programs available in a country does not inherently make your society a socialist society. Right. Just last night, we talked about the thriving economies over the last several years of Scandinavian countries like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, that on the economic index freedom scale are actually more capitalist than the United States of America, have far more free market opportunities for people who live there than even we do here in the United States. Where I think there is a valid criticism, and what's going to be interesting to see if this can even play out here in New York City, are these very radical ideas with extreme expansion in government, stuff like state-run grocery stores or taking over housing here in New York City specifically, with the decommodification, as we saw specifically campaigned for by Zohran Mamdani on the campaign trail, where the government will plan to go in and purchase private housing in the quest to make housing more affordable here in the United States. I think that's an interesting policy idea. It certainly is prescribing the wrong solution, but for an accurate complaint, right? People are struggling to afford life here in Manhattan and around our country. We all reasonably should be coming to the table with solutions for this, but is more government involvement the solution? Time and time again throughout human history, the answer has been no, and I think we have the scorecard to prove that.
Okay, first of all, she's playing the definition game, and she's trying to sound like she's right by saying it quickly and very articulately. It's so ridiculous. They love pulling out the 1950s definition of socialism like it's a gotcha or something. No one's talking about seizing factories or banning the corner deli. What the heck? Democratic socialism isn't about government control. It's about public accountability. It's saying maybe the people who actually do the work and pay the taxes should have a say in how the economy treats them. How is that so radical? This whole artificially control the market line? Yo, the markets are already artificial. It's been artificially tilted for decades. What are you talking about? Through things like tax loopholes, bailouts, and lobbying. The only difference is that they're fine with manipulation when it benefits the rich, but the second it benefits regular people, suddenly it's socialism and the end of all civilization as we know it. It's like, nah, dog. Also, the only fundamental difference isn't between socialism and social programs. It's between using government to protect people and using government to protect profits. And we done been doing that second one for so long that we've all forgotten that the first one was even an option. And real quick, a government-owned grocery store doesn't mean you're forced into it, okay? It means the city offers an alternative model to the private monopoly that already gouges you. We don't have grocery stores out here. We don't have things like Whole Foods and Trader Joe's, okay? I'm out here in Queens. I live kind of close to the Bronx. I'm out here, I guess Whitestone, I guess. And we don't have things like that. It'd be nice to have an actual grocery store, options for a grocery store that we can afford, and I don't have to sweat it every time I'm hungry. Jeez,
this isn't about
It's about rent freezes.
No, it's not even about that.
Well, there was an ad put out by Mamdani advocating for that, so I think let's be honest.
Let's be extremely honest about what this is. Republicans had Barack Obama, who is now a little long in the tooth, and he's on the sideline. They had Kamala Harris, who is now recuperating from a race. They had Joe Biden, right? They do extremely well with picking a boogeyman out, and that is what they're doing. I mean, we cannot fall for that. I mean, they're simply otherizing Mamdani. They're saying whatever they want to say,
and it's not working though. That's the thing. Like, the more they attack him, the more.
It's a refreshing.
Otherizing, just responding to his own campaign
calling him a jihadist
promises.
when he's not a jihadist. That's a good example.
But I mean, for every Zohran Mamdani, there is a Mary Sheffield, right? There is.
Okay, I don't know why Bakari ignored that. That one needs to be made clear for, what's her name, Isabel? We should have people like that repeat it over and over until they finally get it. Just repeat it for hours until they finally get it.
Somebody else who you can see, she's the first black mayor of Detroit, Michigan, where young people came out in large swaths and voted for.
So then the question becomes why they're focusing on Mamdani. And I think the answer is because of Mamdani's own words. If you watched his victory speech last night, he used one line in particular that sort of leapt out and left off the screen when he said that there is literally no problem. This was his line. There is no problem too big for government to solve and no matter too small for government to care about. I mean,
That's
is what
terrifying.
totalitarians would say, is that they're literally, and then the two people he quoted verbatim, aside from Mario Cuomo, which was I thought a delightful little slap at Andrew. I thought it was a little nasty. But he quotes Eugene V. Debs, who is a socialist, and then he quotes Nehru, another socialist, and then he says, "I am a socialist" from the stage. So saying that President Trump is somehow going overboard when he has campaigned as this, when the Democratic Socialists of America, which is a base from which he springs and to whom he answers in many ways, is openly socialist. He's not talking about it. He said on this network he hates capitalism. He said that on this network.
But the president's been calling him a communist, not a socialist.
Well, why don't you explain what you think the difference is?
There's a big difference.
What is the difference?
99.99% of America did not watch his speech. 99% of America literally don't care who Eric Adams is or Cuomo is or who the mayor of New York is. But what is happening, though, is Democrats do something that we don't normally do, which is harness the energy of young people. And Zohran Mamdani had the issue that carried the day yesterday. Everything else, set aside everything else about how you feel. He talked about affordability in a way that communicated to voters and resonated. But Zohran Mamdani is a part of the future of the Democratic Party. He's not the face of the Democratic Party, or he is not the Democratic Party.
Well, something to also keep in mind is, calling him a socialist didn't hurt him in this election, because if you look at Democratic voters, many of whom live here in New York City, they are super skeptical of capitalism. Sure. Because of the crony capitalism they've been dealing with. They don't see a future for themselves in this country in terms of being able to afford a house, be able to get married and have children. So young Democrats who were very much galvanized by Mamdani's message were not put off by his message of socialism. They liked it. And that's something important to keep in mind.
But Republicans are not campaigning in New York against socialism. They are campaigning nationally against socialism. And what they're saying is that the Democrats, don't fall for the bait, is I guess what I'm saying to you guys. I shouldn't give you, I hope you fall for the bait, but don't fall for the bait of making Mamdani the face of your party, because the reality is that Abigail Spanberger won by a larger margin in Virginia than Zohran Mamdani won in New York last night. And by the way, he was running against another Democrat. Okay, that's how much he was disliked. Right? He's running Andrew Cuomo, who's a deeply unpopular person in New York.
He sure is.
Won 800,000 votes in that race last night because there were so many Democrats who didn't like Zohran Mamdani. Right. So this idea that Zohran Mamdani is overwhelmingly popular across the if you include a country that includes half of Republicans, not a city like New York, where perhaps 7 people are Republicans and 3 of them voted for Curtis Sliwa in the end. I'm sorry, it's not a representative sample. It's like saying that AOC is representative of the broad spectrum of American politics, and she isn't.
Fair enough. All right, coming up next,
This bitch is smoking crack. What the hell kind of argument was that? Zohran's win was a big deal for very significant reasons, and it should be obvious. If you can't see why, then you're just completely out of touch. But what in tarnation's kind of desperation was that? That made absolutely no sense. His argument there, it just made no sense. It made absolutely no sense. He's trying to confuse correlation with causation. He's basically saying because Zohran ran against another Democrat and Cuomo got votes, that means people hate Zohran. Does that make sense to you? Nah. That's oh my god, it's really grasping for straws, because that's like saying, because people still buy iPhones while Androids exist, that means everybody hates iPhones. It's absolute bullshit. And he's like, Cuomo got 800,000 votes, so Zohran's disliked. Bitch, what? Okay, well, Zohran got 1,036,051 votes, so that easily disproves your point entirely, Ben. What are you talking about? As a matter of fact, the last New York mayor to ever get 1 million votes was back in the 60s, 1969 or something. It was John Lindsay. And so, I would say that's a pretty decent win there. Definitely worthy of some praise, okay? But really, a government that cares, that's what scares them? Imagine being so allergic to empathy that as soon as you hear compassion, you start looking for the exits. They talk like Zohran's quote was a threat and not a mission statement. The government is supposed to care. That's literally its job. If the government isn't helping, then who is? Because I can promise you right now, Walmart's not doing it out of the kindness of their heart. Let me tell you, boy howdy. Okay? And see, that's the game with them. They want you terrified of the government so you'll forget that you are the government. okay? This whole big government bad thing, it's just billionaire ventriloquism, really. I mean, they scare you out of using your own collective power, then they quietly hand that power to corporations, and that's what we've been living. And I can't believe most people are just like all for it, because it's not anti-government, it's straight up anti-democracy. Because if people ever stopped being scared of the word government, they'd start demanding one that actually works for them. I mean, why else is the government there? And then they're so quick to clutch their pearls and go, he actually called himself a socialist. Yeah, he did, we know. And I know that's been such a word, back when Bernie wasn't even able to say it, in front of people without worrying, but it's like, it's, saying that I'm a socialist isn't summoning Stalin. It just means that he believes public good shouldn't depend on private greed. But they say it like he confessed to arson or something, like, god damn. But that's because they've trained their audience to treat the word socialist like it's radioactive. They can't attack the ideas, healthcare, housing, fair wages, so they attack the vocabulary, because it's like last-ditch effort. And now, they're over here twisting themselves into knots saying Zohran Mamdani, don't make Zohran the face of the Democratic Party. Like, he only won because people hate him. Yo, what? How do you win an election because everybody hates you? That's a straight up tantrum. That's no analysis, okay? That's straight up, that's a Ben Shapiro tantrum, and whoever else agrees with him. Tantrum. Okay, because that's like saying, oh, Beyonce won a Grammy because people can't stand her vocals. What in tarnations are you talking about? I mean, is anybody falling for this? Tell me you guys aren't falling for this. It's nonsense. What they're really saying is that Zohran's existence threatens their narrative, because he just proved that voters aren't afraid of words like socialist anymore. They're not afraid at all, and they shouldn't be. They're too distracted by struggling to pay rent, healthcare bills, to raise their kids, and everything else. They don't care about Cold War labels. They care about their damn lives, man. Billionaires act like we're just as greedy as them or something. We're not. We most certainly are not. They're like practically mental about it. Most of us just want to live normal-ass lives. We're not viciously scratching our way to taking their place or anything. Like, Jesus Christ. Anybody who isn't a billionaire who is rooting so hard for these billionaires is mental. My personal opinion. Okay, and for those of you who are mental, just kidding, but no, for those of you who are, for some insane reason, against taxing the rich, let me help you see how wide these numbers really are, okay? Hey Google, how long is 1,000,000 seconds?
1,000,000 seconds would take up 11 days, 13 hours, 46 minutes, and 40 seconds.
Hey Google, how long is 1,000,000,000 seconds?
About 31 years and 8 months.
Okay, let that sink in for a minute. Huge difference. If I gave you $5,000 a day, it would only take 6 months for you to become a millionaire. Do you know how long it would take to be a billionaire? If I gave you $5,000 a day? Guess. Pause the video. Why don't you guess? Go ahead. Pause the video right now and just type your guess in the comments real quick. Don't look it up. Just make a quick and wild guess. I'll wait. Just first number comes to your head. $5,000 a day. How long would it take for you to be a billionaire? Okay. Are you ready for this? 547 years. That's a pretty hefty difference between the 6 months to a millionaire. Right? That's over 5 lifetimes. That's insane. If you're still rooting for the billionaires after that, then I don't know. There's no hope. Okay, because not a single human being could spend $1 billion in their lifetime. That money is just sitting there. It's just sitting there. As people starve and we all suffer. It's literally hoarding. It's practically mental illness. I mean, ask Steve Wozniak, whom I love. Ask Keanu Reeves. This is why they give their money away when they get too much of it. Because it makes sense to give it away. Because what's it going to do? It's just sitting there otherwise. I mean, Keanu Reeves himself, he actually said himself, he doesn't mind giving his money out because the millions that he has is enough for him to spend for the rest of his life. So I don't know why this whole taxing the rich is such a huge fucking deal. So it's a tiny, literally, well, I don't understand why that would make anybody feel bothered or uneasy. That's literally pennies to them. It's pennies. I cannot stress that enough. It's pennies. But it would change our lives. So yeah, calling compassion terrifying. Keep pretending that caring is communism, and keep twisting victories into failures. But the truth is, what they fear most isn't Zohran Mamdani. It's the possibility that people might finally realize the government isn't some monster in the closet. It's just us. It's just us finally turning the lights back on. I don't know if you guys have ever read The Monster at the End of the Book. It's one of my favorite books. I think it's symbolic and meaningful. Also, I would like to add that victory speech was so much more powerful than people realize.
Since I know you're watching,
Turn the volume up. The Devil's Time Is Up. That's a KRS-One song. And that Bollywood song playing at the end was called Robbing the Corrupt Bank. Alright, Joe. Please like and subscribe to the video. That would mean the world to me, honestly. I would love to hear what you have to say on the subject. Did I change your mind? Did I help you see the whole billionaire taxing the rich situation anymore? If not, what will it take? Let me know, because I got the time. And it's worth it, because it's so important. And if you want to check out any of my other episodes of my Abby Phillips series, go ahead and click right. Yeah. Love y'all. See you in the next episode.
They got your data, dumbass.
Do not come. Do not come.